Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Meeting the Moment, Embracing and Navigating Pivots, Part 2. I am joined today by a New York native, award winning self published author, media creative with 16 books since 2005 on political, self empowerment, and business subject matter. Also, the founder of the Black American Network that focuses on three levers: management consulting to refine internal culture and operational efficiency, business consulting to architect authentic market engagement blueprints, and financial consulting to optimize community focused investments and wealth building initiatives. Welcome, Therone Shellman, to Trap Chat. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for reaching out on LinkedIn to talk about some really important stuff. We got a lot to cover today, so I want to jump right in.
Okay.
All right. Your path has moved through manufacturing floors, contract work across a dozen industries, self publishing, and now building the Black American as a network and consulting practice. What was the most unexpected pivot along the way? And what did it teach you about who you are when the title and the setting keeps changing?
Well, I would say that there were a lot of changes on the way, but where it started was I was production supervisor for Nature's Bounty, and at the time I wrote my first book. And it's something writing my books was something that I always wanted to do as a youth. So I decided that at that point I was going to move on and concentrate on publishing, etc. And then I got out in the world. My book was a success. We started moving up, publishing other authors, and then
Oh, wow.
Amazon came out with ebooks and
Mhm.
almost collapsed the whole industry. And I got caught up in the middle of that. And of course, uh, it brought about some changes. So at that point, um, while I'm getting myself together, fixing my program up, I decided to enter the workspace again. But there was some changes I had to make. Um,
Okay.
First off, I came from an inspector and production background, but I got to the point where companies didn't want to hire me. Why?
Mm.
Because of the fact that I was overqualified. I knew too much. So whenever I would apply to positions, I would get offered, but I would also see on that paperwork that if you invent anything, if you create anything down the line, that we're part owners and all that. So they're already understanding that I'm not that average person. That
Mm.
if I'm in an environment to learn something, I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna do something with it. So I realized that, hey, I'm done with the whole production thing, unless I want to be a slave. So that's
Oh,
when I decided that I need to own my own time. So I started working for temp agencies and also doing 1099 independent contract work as a matter
mm-hmm.
of consequence to adjust to the environment that I was faced with.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been a person that strive to maintain my independence, individuality, and also understanding my situation being a black man. You
Yeah.
know, you could either play the game or you could strive to try to create your own narrative. So I've been that person since I can remember that has never been interested in playing the game that's set out there.
That's a great segue to my next question. In our behind the scenes conversation, you mentioned that society is adamant about breaking Black men.
Of course.
Maintaining who you are under that kind of pressure would require a deep trust in your own voice, especially when the rooms you're asking, when you're in rooms that are asking you to be someone you're not. How did you build that trust in yourself, and how do you help other Black men when it's been chipped away?
Well, when you say black men, there are demographics of that. We have, black American men, and then we have uh, black men who come from up the diaspora. And our
Mm-hmm.
situations are very different. Let me explain. For instance, if you have a black man that comes from an African country, or a black man that comes from Jamaica, Trinidad, etc., them growing up in environments where black people are the dominant group. So their experience with racism is totally different than ours, than here growing up in America where we're 13% of the population, and racism and dealing with white society as an environment is a total different experience. Even when they come over here, it's a different experience. Why? Because when the society deals with them, you gotta understand, white Americans don't feel threatened by them because they're not American. So they'll feel like they're underclass. Whereas black Americans, they feel really threatened by, because if they know their history, especially the ones that know their history, like the Masons or people that control stuff, they know our history too. They know that we've been here 1619. They know that we've been in every war. They know that after slavery, many of these cities that were built, we built the foundations for, regardless of what they teach in the school system. So when we talk about our experiences as blacks, it's there was invisible lines. So
Okay.
what I would say is that what I strive to do is to be an example, because your words mean one thing, but action shows another thing. I always strive to lead uh, with my character, who I am. I'm firm in what I do. They see that I don't BS. If I owe a man 8 hours of work, then I'm gonna give him the 8 hours of work and be stand up about it. But I'm not gonna tolerate disrespect. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
tolerate a lot of the other stuff that I hear a lot of people go through for a paycheck.
So you say you build trust by being yourself and modeling that behavior.
Yeah, but being yourself can mean a lot of things. But me
Mm-hmm.
being myself as being a black American is always understanding that whenever I step into a room and in an environment, that I'm not just representing me, I'm
Mm-hmm.
representing a group of people. So I need to carry myself in a certain manner, and I also need to represent with a certain amount of character. You don't gotta like me, but you gotta respect me.
Okay. That's another great segue. Now we're going to talk about building relationships, and building real relationships between Black men. That takes intention, especially in a moment like we are right now, when the message is to isolate, to grind alone, or to perform a version of strength that costs them their mental health. How are you building that brotherhood inside the Black American, and what has it required you to unlearn along the way?
Okay, so what I would say is that I have experience with this because I came up through as a team. I came up through uh, the Nation of Gods and Earths, which many know as the 5% Nation, which came out of the Nation of Islam, which is an organization that was built for Black youth, mainly young Black men. So this is how I grew up. I'm 54 years old. I grew up in environments where young Black men, we worked together. You know, the Nation of Gods and Earths was based, came out of New York, but we're very known like in New York City, Long Island. So I already grew up in that environment where there was camaraderie amongst us. Because when I was growing up, it was mainly Black American men, uh, there was Puerto Ricans, and then you had white Americans. There wasn't really all these other groups. So we grew up together, we, as a community. So this is something I automatically know. like secondhand because I grew up amongst it. So even now, when I do emails or messaging to other black men, one of the things I mentioned to a brother last week, he was mentioning something about the lack of togetherness that we have as far as like a black community, etc. And I mentioned to him is that one of the things with the Black American that we're striving to do is to make it a resource. More importantly, than all the other things that we're doing, make it a resource for Black Americans to know who we are, the resources that are available, and the opportunity to network. But I said the second part of that is that people got to let go of their egos. You got a lot of people that want to be this and that and blah, blah, blah. How about thinking about how you can be of service to the next person, add on? And that's how we add on with each other. But you got to let go of that ego.
Okay. Let's go back to the Black American, which is the community you're trying to build. And what you're doing there is looking to engage the untapped intellectual capital of the Black American community. We see a lot of efforts to, tap into the intellectual capital or to bring community together, do all of these things. A lot of people online call it activism instead of activism. How do you move from that kind of performative commitment to real change while holding individuals accountable?
Okay, so in regards to, like I mentioned, I have experience growing up within an organization, a youth organization. So there are many different levels to organization building, and getting past the stage of people just being interested to the point of where they're actually doing things together. And so right now, the Black American LinkedIn group that's what it is. It's a LinkedIn group, but we're already moving towards creating other platforms, and pretty soon we're putting together online meet and greets like we're doing the podcast right now. We have something that's coming up in late May. That's going to be our first Zoom. After that, there's actually going to be things that we're going to be doing out in society that's available to people that actually want to engage. You can't rescue everybody. You can't get everybody to engage, but the point is to create them opportunities for people that consider it worthwhile to do. So even right now, we have a membership of 500 people. If I was to get 50 people to start engaging beyond the LinkedIn group, to do Zooms, to actually get out in the world and actually do some things, to me, that would be a success. Because I believe that it's not so much about, it's like going to church. You got a whole bunch of people that say they're Christians, but maybe 5% of those people really engage in Christianity as a way of life and culture every day. So I understand that. I understand that from looking at the world and living in the world, that what we see, as we build the Black American, even though we have XYZ amount of members, that it's going to be a very small percentage that actually get out there. And I understand that you don't need a whole bunch of people to get really important things done. Mm-hmm. The example of that is the military. We have military that thousands of people. But guess what? When they want to get important things done, they send the special forces in of a team of 10 or 15, and they clear the house.
Okay. So the Black American is going to be like your own little special forces.
not so much special forces in doing, that type of stuff, but we're going to be engaged in real things. This is what we're building towards.
Okay.
So all the people that want to make noise and stand around and be on the sidelines, I'm not worried about them.
Uh, I hear you, and I appreciate that. We're going to move into a little bit of heaviness now. We know all the things that are going on in the news cycle. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it was what prompted you really to reach out to me about being a guest on the podcast, because I did ask for people who pivoted, and then, that mix of pivoting for your mental health. But I want you to speak to the Black male perspective, because mental health for Black men, it's often treated reactively after the crisis, the breakdown or the loss. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Like, now we're bringing this up as a topic in terms of the general public and the media. What proactive practices, rituals, or frameworks have you put in place for yourself? And what would you tell a Black man who knows something is off but hasn't given himself permission to name it yet?
Well, I'm glad you have posed that question. Coming up through the nation, through the nation of Islam and through the 5% nation, everything starts with self. Everything starts with self. Everything ends with self. I don't care if you're married. I don't care if you have children, you have a job, you have neighbors. Everything starts with self. And too often, we're taught that we as individuals are secondary or third or etc. No, you're first. Take care of you first, because without you in your world, everything doesn't matter. When you die, things in life is going to go on. If you're in bad health, guess what? The situations around you are going to change real quickly. And I don't really get why people don't get that, but I'm thankful to have come up through the nation, because that's something that we were taught. That's the foundation of our learnings.
Mm. So deal
So
with yourself first.
you have to deal with yourself. You got to fix yourself first.
All right, y'all heard it. Do that internal work first.
You have to. You let me tell you something. You know how many, think about it. When we look at people, right, that we consider to be successful, because they got the money and all that, and they're drinking, they smoking, they doing drugs, they involved in all this crazy stuff, and you sit back and you wonder why. They haven't done the work on themselves. If you don't do the work on yourself, everything else in the world that you attach yourself to, that you become in love with, is actually going to become a vice to magnify the problems that you have with yourself.
Okay. We're at the last question in the main section. Another probably mildly heavy, not as heavy as the last question, but still a little bit. This moment is asking Black men to decide who they are when the cost is high. What does meeting this moment look like for you? And what are you building now that you want to still be standing when this moment passes?
Well, I want to sit back and say that this moment, whether it's now, is no different than any other moment. I'm me. I don't change because of what America is going through. that's their issue. That's their political issue. I'm me. And I think that too many people walk into rooms, too many people get involved with people and allow situations to change who they are. And I think that you have to first deal with yourself, develop who you are as an individual and be like a tree, because environments are going to change. Your mood is even going to change. The people around you are going to change, but you can't change. Your mission has to be the same. It kind of reminds me of what Don Peebles state. Don Peebles is one of our billionaire real estate investors, Black American smart guy. What he states is that as Black Americans, our situation and objectives doesn't change. No matter if Republicans are in office or Democrats in office, we have to stay in line and move towards what we're striving for.
Okay. All right, it's time for the rapid fire. Who is a well-known and/or lesser-known historical or contemporary figure who inspires you and we should learn more about?
Um, John Peebles, he's a billionaire, Black American investor, very smart guy, very smart in regards to business and politics. And when thinking about building the Black American, I thought about what he stated. He stated that our objective doesn't change, no matter who's in office, that we should be striving to negotiate our objectives and what we need. And we don't owe the Republican or Democrat Party our allegiance. Our allegiance is towards our objectives.
Okay. What is the best piece of career advice you've received that you would give to your early career self?
The best career advice I received from an older gentleman who stated that either you're learning skills at a job that are useful to you, or you're getting paid for your skills and the knowledge that you have. If you're receiving neither, if both of them are mediocre, you need to move on.
All right, so you've written a lot of books, but maybe not about this topic. If you wrote a book describing your career so far, what would the title be?
It would be Pivot and Change.
Okay. What fictional character gives you a glimpse of yourself?
He-Man. Because He-Man, I remember as a kid, he always used to say, by the power invested in me. And a lot of people don't understand what that means. It means that God has given you innate power. You're looking for acceptance in the world. God has given you innate power to walk this earth and to take ownership of your life and be responsible for it.
That's the first time someone said He-Man, and it took me back to my childhood. That was He-Man would come on right before I would get on the bus, and I knew as soon as that went off, it was time for me to head outside and go to school. So I like that. What's your go-to songs, or music genre when you want to hype yourself up to conquer the day?
Go-to would be definitely conscious hip hop like Public Enemy, and like alternative rock like Linkin Park, because Linkin Park, they have really smart music.
Okay. What's your favorite empowering quote?
Would be my quote. And when people ask me how I'm doing, I'll be like, it could be better or it could be worse. And what that means is that to be grateful, first of all, of where you're at, and really understanding that there are better situations going on in the world, but there are also worse as well.
That is true. All right. What's one thing you want people to take away from our conversation?
That you're the power that you're seeking. You know, if you're looking for validation, whether it's through religion, whether it's through a person, through anything, you know, He-Man said it, by the power invested in me. God's giving you that power already.
I love that. And before I let you go, please shout out any upcoming projects, books, initiatives, or anything we should be on the lookout for.
Okay, so as you know, I'm the author of 16 books. And the books I write, especially my nonfiction books, they're not fluff. Many of them can help people in areas of their life. They're also filled with a lot of personal experience. And definitely be looking for what we're doing with the Black American, because it's going to be bigger than a LinkedIn group. It's bigger than just about getting a bunch of people to join and post and do all of that. That's just a part of setting the platform.
Okay. So should they come and follow you on LinkedIn or?
Yes, they can follow me on LinkedIn. Therone Shellman. Also, my company, Therone Shellman Media, as well. And I'm engaged in politics. So
Mm-hmm.
um, right now, I'm on a political canvassing campaign. I don't want to name the candidate, but for two
Okay.
years, I've been doing political work. I'm also with the New York City Board of Elections. I do election day. I work. So no, it's not. I'm just not here just running my mouth. I'm out here doing the work.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much for spending time with me today and giving us all of your insights. And thank all of you for watching. Please come back for the next episode of Meeting the Moment, Embracing and Navigating Pivots. We got a lot more stories to go through and talk about. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having me.